Hey y'all, what's up? This is Chris from Blackstone Cherry, and you're watching the Helix Hour with Eric Broadbent.
Hey, this is Vernon Reed from Living Color, and you're watching the Helix Hour.
Hey guys, my name is Gemma Jura. I'm the guitar player for Evanescence, and you're watching the Helix Hour.
Welcome to the Helix Hour, brought to you in part by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for the Helix Hour are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, let's talk some Helix. Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you all. Welcome to the Helix Hour. We are live once again and joined once again, this is fantastic, one of our fan fave recurring guests from the Smashing Pumpkins, from Night Dreamer, Line 6, and Yamaha Guitars Artist. Man, that's a mouthful. That's a lot of words.
I know.
Mr. Jeff Schroeder, welcome back, my
Hey,
friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's like my Sunday ritual to be on the show now.
It is, I know.
Is this what's my third time?
That's a point I was going to
Fourth?
make. It's your fourth time, but I think
Wow.
the third time on the Helix Hour, and you were back on my EVH show way back about 2 years ago.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny because there's that website Metal Sludge.
Yes.
And they have so I think they have when someone's been on 4 times they call the interview back for more.
Oh, yeah.
After the rat song. so I'm back for more today.
Well, the thing that's cool about it, just like Billy Sheehan, mutual, admiration for both of
Yeah.
us. He's been on quite a few times too, and he said, I'll keep coming back as people don't get bored. If they don't get bored, and I'm like, same as with you too. I know you'll keep coming back, and I love having you. You just like to geek out over guitars like we all do. But every time you're
Sure.
back, it feels like a fresh show because we've always got something new.
Yeah.
It's great. So I don't think fans are ever going to get bored. I know I certainly won't of having you back. So welcome back again. It's awesome.
No, thank you for having me. No, then there are in this episode there's quite a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We're going to get
Yeah.
right to it. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll say hi to a bunch of people over in the chat. We'll welcome all of them first, and then we'll come back. I'll try to flag wherever we left off there, and then we'll circle back to the chat as well, too. But just before we jump in, it's made a couple notes as well, too, just to kind of give some updates to our viewers. If you have a question for Jeff, you can either tag myself, Music Gear Network, in the chat, or you can tag our beautiful Sandra Lee, Butterfly and Ladybug Show, and she tends to catch more of the comments than I do. So, tag either one of us, and we'll try our best to get your question asked. And also, in true Helix Hour tradition, something that Jeff himself started, we were joking about this earlier, we have a couple Helix presets to give away today. And once Jeff opened up that can of worms in a great way, fans is like, okay, can we have presets from so-and-so? Can we have presets from so-and-so? So we have some presets today. We'll talk about those, and we'll get some demonstrations on those shortly as well, too. And lastly, if you want to support the show today, feel free to either use our Super Chat feature or our PayPal links are on the screen. Greatly helps. So, Jeff, you were at NAMM. We were both at NAMM. We didn't get a chance to run into each other. It was just crazy schedules for both of us.
I mean, I think this year honestly, I think there's too many people.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I think that it's really. I mean, I'm not an exclusionist, so I don't want to exclude people, but they're gonna have to come up with a different model because it was so crowded that you can't even. It takes so long just to go see one person.
I know.
To say hello or go visit a booth, and yeah, it's madness.
People think it's just like we can just text each other because you and I, we text each other probably 3 or 4 times a day. But you think it's just as easy as saying, okay, Jeff, I'm going to come and see you. And it's not just that easy. I mean, you could be, especially with the Line 6 and Yamaha stuff, it's in its own, over at the Marriott, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you could be on the 3rd floor just getting through the traffic alone. So, getting to an appointment alone is hard enough, let alone trying to meet up with your buddies and stuff.
Yeah. So I got a question for you though.
Okay.
Just since we're having a little bit of everybody, most of these shows I've been watching, because I watch instead of watching regular TV, I watch YouTube almost predominantly versus even regular TV. So I'm watching gear shows and stuff all the time, but so everybody's been doing their kind of NAMM recaps.
Yep.
Obviously we have Line 6, Yamaha stuff to talk about, but besides that, was there anything that you saw that was exciting to you?
Yeah, there was. Well, it's funny because I think basically we went down a couple thousand miles just to play Yamaha electric drums for the better part of the week. That's what Junior was doing. So we were stuck in the big room the whole week. But a few other things. ESP Guitars was great. I went and saw their booth. Oh man, Floyd Rose. Floyd Rose was a really cool thing for me.
I know, because it was like his 40th anniversary, right?
Yep.
I think is what they were saying. Which is amazing.
Yeah, that was cool. He got the new anniversary trims out there with the red anodized tuners on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was one of those, bucket list moments for me. Like, I mean, my nickname on the internet is Floyd Rose. So that was a big highlight to me.
I think, I think for us, because we kind of grew up or came of age in that era where, when I started playing guitar, you could buy a Floyd Rose, in the mid 80s, it was kind of the rage, so just to think about how innovative and paradigm shifting, and really, and there's people who do versions of what he does, and, and people that, there's people like Adam, at FU Tone making top of the line, amazing stuff, but still to this day, Floyd Rose's basic concept and design is still the best that there is. Like no one, I mean? It's really, it's pretty amazing that there's been nothing better.
I agree with that.
He really did something special. And I think people, it's like you take that for granted, but when you think of a really true lasting innovation, a lot of trends come and go, but lasting innovation it's amazing, So I thought that was really special too.
Yeah, small booth, really, it's like twice the size what you'd see like in a big mall, like when you have like one of those kiosks in the mall. I'm not making slight of it, but it's about that size, but awesome. It's just good to meet him.
And he's making do you see he's got these guitar designs?
Yeah, I played one. Junior did too.
To make it easier to, his way of trying to, to pick faster.
Yeah.
So you don't get the pick basically caught up in the strings.
Did you try it?
I didn't try it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Interesting idea because, and this is we're kind of going on a tangent,
okay.
But I've been working a lot on my right-hand picking technique. And so
Good.
It's something that was really on my radar when I saw that, but I didn't get a chance to actually try it. There was just so many people at the booth.
I know. I did, and I'm surprised I did. I only played guitar twice at NAMM, there and over in the big Yamaha room.
Yeah.
But I'm very intimidated by playing guitar in music stores, and especially at NAMM when there's every kid, 12-year-old kid doing arpeggios from hell, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I just feel embarrassed and intimidated by it. But I played, and it was fun. But
I know it is, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst. You know what I mean?
I know it's crazy. But before I go too far, I just want to say thanks. Frank Rashad just did a super chat. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. And let's go say hi to these awesome people, and we'll come back again as well too. So Alec Bourne is here. Wolverine is here. Scott Roos is here. Headstock Harem. Frank Rashad, as I mentioned, nice to have you, Frank. David B.B. Benningfield, Matt Krill, Thrash Metal and Fun Riffs is here. My beautiful Butterfly and Ladybug show. Carlos Santon is here. Bucket Full of Balls is here. If you're gonna have some balls, you gotta have a bucket full, right? I love that name. Some of the names you see on YouTube are just the best. And for the most part, I can pronounce everybody's name today, which is great too. I'm the worst at it. Michael Easter is here. John Mansfield Guitar is here. Sonia is here. David Ennis is here as well too. And I do have a question coming up for Jeff that's been filtered to me through Carlos Santon, through Sandra here. Jason Wade is here as well too, and I jumped a little too far. So Dale Palmer is here. R2R3 Locking Nut. He's got a HX Stomp sitting in his Amazon cart, just waiting to check out. You better buy it.
Just buy it.
Just buy it. That's right. That's right.
Will not be disappointed.
Kai Down is here as well too. Let me see here. I think we're down almost to the bottom. Nathan Whitney is here. Nathan, I'm going to drop you an email. If you have a Sunday off, I want you on the show. We've been talking about it. We just haven't made that happen. Nathan's great. Thomas Farrow is here. Derek Merrill is here. Brandon Dyke.
Brandon, hello.
And he loves
Brandon's a friend of mine.
Awesome. He loves your Jason Becker shirt, which is obviously class. Class. Yeah. For sure. Okay, so if I've missed anyone, I greatly apologize. So there's a question from Carlo, and it's so funny sometimes. I'm not going to say what it said in my chat. Sandra uses voice to text a lot, so she's voice texting me, and what she tried to say the first time is not what Carlo asked. So this is what, actually I will say, because it's funny. He's asking, how do you get out of a playing rut? But what came through was, how does Jeff get off of a plane right?
Exactly.
Right? Just don't hit your head and you're all good, right? Getting out the door. No, seriously, a question from Carlos Santon. How do you get out of a playing rut? And that's a great question.
For me, over the last few years, I think you always, to me, I look at the instrument as I'm a lifelong learner. And you've never reached a point to where where you feel like, okay, I could look at like, well, have I reached a proficiency on the instrument where I can play a Smashing Pumpkin show? Mm-hmm. Sure, maybe, and certainly I'm not a young chicken anymore. People my age often just go like, okay, I can go to work, do what I need to do, and I can get into boat sailing or whatever it is, lots of guys tend to do, or in an older age. But for me, I still love the guitar, maybe even more than ever, and I appreciate like what the guitar has to offer and kind of the limitless potential of the instrument. And I just view myself as a lifelong learner. So over the last few years, I've really invested a lot of time in taking lessons. And so I studied in Chicago for the last few years with a jazz teacher there. And now that I'm kind of out in the Los Angeles area again, I found another guy out here. So I've done a few lessons here. And then also in the time I became friends with Michelangelo. Mm. And so I've probably had 2 or 3 lessons with him. And because I've been kind of working really hard on my alternate picking technique and really trying to get that down. And so he's been such a great mentor. It's just a cool guy to hang out with and a friend. And he treats me like almost like peer to peer.
Nice.
Where I'm like, he's obviously a picking god. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so being able to go and have someone who's maybe one of the best at doing that type of technique and just look at your hand and go, even just encourage, go like, hey, you're on the right path, mm-hmm. but you're not doing it. But this is what I see. He can look at you and just go like, okay, it's like a golf swing.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Analyze it.
Yeah. And a lot of it had to do with, you would think it was less my right hand, more my left hand. But to get back to the question at hand, so I don't find myself getting in ruts anymore because there's the pile of work that I have to do to learn is so high. And I think that the basic idea of, if you're practicing things that you can already play, mm-hmm. then you're not practicing the right things.
Oh,
if you sound really good while you're practicing, you're probably not practicing the right things. Like, I mean, it's a thing where if someone heard me playing, you'd be like, I can't believe this guy plays guitar for a living, because it's so bad sometimes, and mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's practicing basics. It's like a basketball player doing free throws or whatever. It's learning to, practicing arpeggios to a metronome only on 2 and 4 to making sure that your time is good, or sometimes practicing to a metronome with only 1 beat per measure to make sure that all your beats are lining up. So there's just so many, because even doing little things like that really creep into your playing in a way that, that it can be really significant.
Agreed.
So yeah, I don't find myself getting into ruts too much anymore, because there's just so much to learn.
Exactly. Well,
but you have to invest some time into that. You have to invest some time into getting materials, finding a good teacher, and whatnot.
You nailed it right there too. And investing the time is something that you shared with me just off the air. First of all, it's nice when you can not get in a rut, but I think another good way to not be in a rut is to always be playing. And you had mentioned you can tell us a little bit about the studio that you're at right now. It's a new studio for you, rehearsal space and everything. And you said, sometimes bands will come to the studio and, they'll play a song and then there'll be a 20-minute break to just, socializing with their friends and whatever. And maybe doing some poses for Instagram and posting those. And then, let's do another couple more songs. And then, they've rented the studio for 5 hours and they used it for 45 minutes, and that's a shame because you're not getting anything. You're not really getting anything out of it. Right. I mean, you got to be able to do those songs until they're muscle memory.
It's to be great. It depends what your ultimate goal is. If your goal is to just come and blow off some steam at the end of a long work week, and that's one thing. But if your goal is to be a professional, then it's a tough grind, and especially the older you get, you have to really. There's a lot more that goes into just playing. When I was a kid, I could play for hours and eat eat bad food and but now if I eat poorly, I feel fatigued, I feel tired, or I get muscle fatigue. And so it's I have to take a much more holistic approach to playing the guitar, where it's I'm making sure I'm sleeping well and eating well and not getting over caffeinated.
That's right.
Because I tend to do that too. Because I'll be sitting here practicing and just drink cup after cup of coffee, and then before I can't even, my hand is shaking.
I know. Well, see, that's a good thing too. Maybe sometimes some of us should not beat ourselves up if we're having a bad playing day, because number one, maybe you haven't been practicing enough. That's a cause and an effect as well too. But like you said, treating your body right. I don't necessarily treat my body right. I drink a lot of caffeine and I skip a lot of meals, and I tend to just eat in the afternoon. But if we look at that and we look at, okay, we want to be a better musician, what do we need? Not just the practice, but health, diet, sleep, that kind of thing. And that all is contagious as well too, to making things better.
It is. That's actually, before I was a full-time musician, I was a graduate student getting my doctorate at UCLA in literature. And so I used to do a lot of writing, and I kind of after leaving graduate school and becoming, doing music full time, I stopped investing much time in like writing as much. But I actually think about, now that I've kind of settling into a different era of my life, I kind of want to write a book of some point, some type. And so I've been thinking about putting together something, because I've been approached by some different universities actually that do online courses about putting together like a music-based course or something. And so I've been thinking about doing something about practicing. And I think because guitar practice has become such a big part of my life, and I think it would be an idea that would translate to people who are beyond guitar players. And and I would love to go out and interview some of the best musicians in the world, because I'm lucky that I'm privileged to have met so many people, or play in a band with someone like Jimmy Chamberlin, who's one of the greatest rock drummers of the last 30 years. And,
Love him.
And to be able to go and, get this kind of insider information, less about licks and things, but more about what's the approach, what should you be thinking about practicing, and then also getting into some of these things about like this more like what I call like this kind of holistic approach, where, well, is exercise, eating, diet, sleep, how do all these things, time spent on the phone in front of a computer, or all these things going to affect what ultimately comes out in your playing. And I think it's just, I think it's things that I had to learn over time, that I would love to present to people in a way that maybe they would find useful.
I think they would. So, I really think they would.
Yeah. So that's something that's kind of a, somewhere maybe down the pipeline.
Nice. Well, people will appreciate that for sure. And I mean, it's always nice. Sure. Like you're talking about Jimmy, for example. So, I mean, if someone was to do like a rig rundown, they look at his drum kit or they look at your guitar rig and stuff like that. That's cool. But people sometimes it can be even better. I mean, there's tons of those kind of videos out there, but it'd be really cool to get that background. Like, sometimes you almost forget that he's a drummer. If you were presented that way, you're getting like the life background and what can we do to be better for ourselves first, then to our instrument. So I think that'll be a good success.
Yeah, because I think ultimately, I mean, everybody has different needs for the instrument. If it's a very privileged position to be, when people, some advice that you could give to people is like, oh, you should just only develop your own style.
Right.
Which is great if you want to be, if your goal is to be a recognized artist, musician, like Eddie Van Halen or Steve Vai or Satriani or any of those types of where they have these unique, like they play 3 notes, exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, but not everybody is that privileged. Some people like, hey, I got to play top 40 or, I got to play in a cover band because that's how I make my living. So to tell them like, hey, like you shouldn't learn how to play like Eric Clapton because that's not developing your own style. That may not be the need that person has. So I think that, it's, you have to be, people need to be open-minded about everybody has different needs when it comes to playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here is a question. This one was asked a few minutes ago from Nathan. I got to go back and find it. Nathan's asking, he says, Jeff, have you checked out Cracking the Code? That's what I'm working on these days.
Oh yeah. Nice. I am a subscriber and I think what the work that Troy Grady has done is truly phenomenal for people who are into this style of guitar playing. Because I've actually been spending the last, month or so, I kind of gone down, a Yngwie rabbit hole.
Nice.
And so his seminar called Volcano, which breaks down the Yngwie Malmsteen picking style and pattern styles and techniques, is unbelievable. It's really good, and it really gives you insight onto the kind of the beauty of what Yngwie does in his picking. I mean, because if you first and foremost, if you listen to his playing, the sound of his right hand and the fluidity of it's really cool. And then once you go in, you are able to learn about kind of a very actually rigid system that he's kind of devised in terms of approaching having when switching, alternate picking, when switching strings and odd note patterns to even note patterns to all these different scenarios that come in playing guitar and the way that the techniques that Yngwie engineered to get through them and how he did that, basically on his own in a time where, imagine there's no internet, anything back then.
That's right.
And you can, thanks to the magic of YouTube, you can go and see clips of him playing when he's 15.
Yeah.
And really, for most people, we're kind of going on an Yngwie tangent, but okay. I really think that he developed independent of Eddie Van Halen. I don't think Eddie Van Halen really had much to do. I think he would have developed as he developed even without Eddie Van, where I don't think you could say the same thing about Steve Vai or Satriani. I think that those guys were on their own trajectory for sure, but I think that stuff really had a lot to do with like opening up the floodgates for everybody, where I think Yngwie kind of still would have been Yngwie.
I think so too.
You know what I mean? Because he's really coming from a different place. And so to get back to Cracking the Code, I think Troy's work on that is really, really phenomenal. And it gives really kind of legitimizes, the technical innovations that these players have brought to the field of playing guitar. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Awesome.
Big fan of Troy. Yeah.
Well, that's good. And a lot of people, I'm seeing comments in the chat too as well. There are a lot of people on the same school of thought. Here's a question from Alec. It says, a question for Jeff. Have you ever taken a long period away from using plectrums, picks, over here, and gone purely finger style? How about that?
Never.
Never.
No. That's one thing. I bought a nylon string guitar
Mm-hmm.
from Yamaha. I got got it, and it sounds, because I was like, oh, I want to learn a little bit. And then first and foremost, you realize the translation point from playing a regular guitar, or even acoustic, steel string acoustic, to then switching to a nylon guitar it's almost like playing a different instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really different. And so I did dabble in that for a little bit, and I really enjoyed it. And at some point in my life, I'd really loved to spend more time doing that type of fingerstyle guitar, because I really, through the studying of jazz, I really started getting into even Brazilian music.
Nice.
And doing things like that, because a lot of those types of right hand rhythmic techniques actually were imported into jazz as well. So I kind of entered it a little bit through that end. But as far as like rock playing, I know a lot of people do either finger picking, like Jeff Beck, which is amazing, or they do a lot of this hybrid picking. I haven't delved too much into that. I can barely use this pick still. so yeah, I'm just trying to get my handle on that.
Well, very fair answer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask one more fan question here, and then we're going to take a pause just for some of the questions. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things. I remember back in school, I'm not sure when you went to school. I'm considerably a lot older than you, but we used to have show and tell at school, and you'd bring something in, a toy, and you'd show your class, and we'd talk about, well, we're going to be doing that with guitars today, and we're all going to get to drool over these guitars. We're going to talk about those in a moment.
Yeah, cool.
But Alexis says, Jeff, how did you start with Helix, and how would you build? I'm not sure what he means by, or what Alexis means by how would you build it, and what are your steps to fit? So, when did you start with Helix? How did you start with it, and what are the steps you take to fit into a band? And in one band, you're the only guitar player, and the other band, you're in three guitar players. So, kind of a couple questions there for you.
I started using Helix as soon as it came out. They were, and because before Helix, I was using the M series stuff, just effects. But then I also was using, I was one of the first users at the Axe Effects one. And so had been familiar with that. And so when they were, I didn't know, they didn't tell us what it was called, but one of the project managers from Line 6, would invite me to the office to pick my brain about why, Axe Effects and how I used it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, because they obviously were putting together Helix. So, but they sent me Helix as soon as it was available, and it kind of did sit there for a little bit for the first, because I didn't really know how to integrate it into my system yet. But then, I really started using it in I used it here and there, like at home, I'd kind of mess around with it, but I started using it in earnest in 2018 on the Shiny No So Bright tour. I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to using this as basically not only to do my, not for just effects, but to do all my channel switching and MIDI switching. It's my controller. So, and then from there, I've just started integrating it more and more to where it's basically it's almost like as important to me as the guitar. I have to have a Helix as far as to do my thing, to do what I like to do with the guitar and the instrument. So, but as far as I don't know if if Alexis was wondering, or like, how do you approach Helix differently when you're playing in a band with three guitar players, or when you're playing, if I'm playing by myself in Nightroom where I'm the only guitar player. I think that regardless, it's with three guitar players, first and foremost, the biggest asset you can have if you want to be a great musician and be cool and actually really be part of the greater cause is to become a great listener.
Yeah.
And really listen to what everybody else is doing, and being cognizant of where your guitar is sitting in the mix of the whole band, amongst not only against the other the other two guitar players, but against the whole band, and being cognizant of that and being aware of that and making your sonic choices then in a way that's going to complement what everybody else is doing. And that goes down to the amp sounds, the effect sounds, the guitar, the pickup. I mean, all of it makes a difference.
Agreed.
And yeah, so but then when in Nitro, it's fun for me because I'm the only guitar player. So like in the Smashing Pumpkins, I play mono because there's no reason for me to play stereo, because you have 3 guitar players to deal with, and no one's going to hear like your stereo panning delays very much.
No,
you know
no.
what I mean? You know what I mean? So, yeah, and we play such big venues in the Pumpkins that, if you have a stereo delay and someone's on the right side of the arena, they're only going to hear half of what you're playing anyway.
That's
so,
right.
It's better to be, in that situation, it's better to be mono. But in Night Dreamer, it's it's completely opposite. It's,
As big as you can
play
make
stereo.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stereo stuff going on in that band, and it's kind of integral to making the guitar sound big when you're the only guitar player.
Of course. And that's one of the nice
Yeah.
things, you have that
Yeah.
luxury now. You're not worrying about, am I stepping on any toes over there? But I remember got to see a couple times in the last tour there, and all of your guitar sounds, there was nothing that was fighting one another. Nothing was lost.
Yeah.
You could hear Billy, you could hear James, no problem.
Yeah.
It just really, really cool. I didn't know you were running mono at the time, but that makes sense. And I want to tell our
Yeah.
viewers too, after the show, check out the rig rundown. Eric Jr. did a good rundown with you. It was nice. You showed him
that's
the whole
right.
rig,
Yeah.
and Drew helped us as well. And obviously using Helix rack, and you had a second one for redundancy in case anything went down.
Yeah.
But the routing, the way you pulled out the trays and showed us some of the outboard stuff you had, and obviously that's where a lot of people don't even realize how powerful Helix can be, is the routing. The effects and the amp modeling is just icing on the cake, but it's beautiful for routing. You've done a great job with that. So.
Oh no, it's fantastic. That's what is just, to me, because in Pumpkins I use a real amp, preamp power amp type of setup into a 4x12 cabinet, and but still I'm not locked into any one type of signal routing.
Yeah,
I can put effects anywhere in the signal chain, preset to preset. You're not locked in, and that's, to me, that's key. And Night Dreamer, I'm all Helix. And because of the nature of the band, that sometimes we have to hop on a plane and fly somewhere, I don't use anything outside of the floor unit.
that's crazy.
Like I don't even have an extra expression pedal, even though I want to.
Yeah,
Sometimes I want to have, but it's not necessary.
you can do it with one. Yeah,
It's really, because I can just, honestly, most of the time we have to carry the rack with the backing tracks and stuff. So, we're at a minimum as far as what we can take. So I have to be able to throw it in a suitcase sometimes. I don't even put it in a pedal board. It just literally goes in a suitcase, clothes on top of it. And, I don't want to have anything, I don't want to have anything extra. I just want to be completely self-contained, and it works just beautifully for it. And I can't, I wouldn't be able to play it if I had a traditional guitar rig and I had to carry that around. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this band in the way I want to do it.
Oh, that works out great.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of musicians are loving that as well too. You put it in the overhead,
Yeah.
they got the rig right there. That's fantastic. So let's jump over this. This is the fun topic now. This is where we get to have some show and tell.
Yeah.
I mean, not that anything else wasn't fun. It's great, but everyone loves to look at gear and Jones out over that. But I'm trying to think when it was, but I'm going to just venture a guess somewhere around late fall last year. I think it's somewhere around that time. You'd sent me an email saying, can I take some pictures of my Pacifica I had? I had the 921. It's Junior's kind of claimed it right now. He loves the guitar, and we're fighting back and forth for it. But mine's a 1991. It's got the Warmoth neck on it. Beautiful, beautiful guitar. 3 humbuckers, stacked humbucker and a humbucker. And you said, do some forensic photos for me, and I sent those down to you.
Yeah.
And you said that you were working on something with the custom shop guys, and now here we are. Let's have some discussion about this. Tell us how these came about.
Well, this is what one of the guitars we have. They built me 2 Pacificas, and and this is matching headstock on this one, and has a humbucker and 2 single coils, but this is a Sustainiac in this one.
Nice.
So we can talk more about that, but it's was it basswood body on this one and maple neck, 24 frets. Yeah, it's
Scallop at the top too, right?
It is scallop from 21 to 24, like Steve Vai's.
Yeah,
yeah, and the deep route you can really pull up on the bar. Floyd Rose locking system. It's I had to say these 2 guitars that they've built for me. I've had we've had a long relationship with them over the last relation has developed over the last 6 or 7 years, and they built me a lot of fantastic instruments, and it's not always just for me. Sometimes, like I am the recipient of these gifts because a lot of what they're doing there is research. So they're like, hey, we're want to try these, new necks or new bridges on this. Do you mind if we, you're going? But because I'm lucky because I play so much on tour that they're like, hey, would you mind road testing this stuff? And so I've been lucky. But this is so now after all these years, I was like, hey. Really, because it emerged out of what I was doing in Night Dreamer, that I'm like, I need these guitars that do very specific things because I need one guitar that can kind of do a lot, and I need a Floyd Rose locking guitar because on the record I did a lot of stuff with that. I did a lot of EBO on the record on the Night Dreamer EP, and so I was like, when we started rehearsing, I was like, trying to use the EBO and then going back, that doesn't work. So I needed something with the Sustainiac. And I think right place, right time. They were thinking about doing some work on Pacificas and thinking about doing some designs. And so, but where I'm lucky is that because I wanted 24 frets and stuff, and through talking to them, that they said, well, kind of the body shapes that we're using right now and stuff really aesthetically won't look right. So they were cool enough to go, well, let's go back in the time machine.
Okay.
And look at some of these models that they had made that were essentially similar to this guitar, which is the guitar you were talking about. That's why I had asked you, do you mind sending some photos of that so we can kind of look at it and kind of brainstorm some ideas. And there was at that time, because of the era it came out, there's some things that you wouldn't want to replicate, like that guitar, like the locking system, I think, was some type of proprietary.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I honestly didn't like it. It was the RM Pro 2. It was their attempt. Obviously, everyone has to fall under the Floyd Rose patents, licensing, but that's the only shortcoming. It stayed in tune great, but the locking nut itself wasn't a traditional 3mm wrench, so that was weird.
So that's a nightmare. Yeah. You know what I mean? But at the time, no one knew what was going to happen with everybody's hoping that their innovation is going to be the one that changes the paradigm shifting one. But so we kind of took some inspiration from that kind of stuff, but also Pat, the designer, have you ever had Pat on the show?
No, I want to. I talked to him at NAMM.
Yeah, because he's he's got a lot of insight into this kind of stuff. So we talked about it, and so he had already been playing around with some new contours. So this body shape is that. I think it's the same body shape as yours.
Darn close, very, very close.
Yeah, Yamaha, Pat was able to go and get the schematics from that guitar from Japan.
Oh, nice.
And so so then he was able to write the new CNC information to basically have this guitar, so this is in that way is a very unique one-off in that it's based off of that body design, which most likely, I can't say if they'll ever come out with it
right
in the future, but like I said, that they like to have some fun with stuff and go like, okay, let's build this stuff and see kind of what the reaction is. So they were able to do that. But like I said, this has these brand new body contours here on the front and on the back, which it was hard to see. But so the back contours and the front body contours are new designs by Pat. And I have to say, like, the ergonomics of it are phenomenal. Like playing the guitar, it's just, I mean, it's that difference that makes, it's that small difference that makes all the difference in the world if you play guitar all the time. And I'm in love with it. But also it has these, which is kind of common in new guitars now with, Charvels and Ibanez and Jacksons and whatnot. And even, I don't know, not Fender so much, the Ultra shows how they're kind of doing, but this has a really great contoured neck joint here, which, again, if you're not used to playing guitars with something like this, like it's really hard to go back. Like when I play a normal Strat or something, like it just feels like, what is stopping my hand?
Yeah, big deal in some of the PRSs too.
Yeah. So this is great because, like, honestly, like you can easily get to the 24th fret. Like there's no resistance and your hand just feels great there. And and so it is very, a lot of these innovations, because I think, like, I don't know, like the story that you hear is, if once you start getting into this type of lore and stuff, you start finding out some really interesting information. And this is like for people who only want to go 9, 10, 10 layers deep into this, people may not care, but so but we'll get, but anyway, so it like this is like getting up to the 24th fret, and like, I have pretty big hands, and so a lot of guitars I would always hit this with my hands, like playing up here, so I don't have any of that. And I mean, obviously I think there's dual rods in the neck. I mean, it's really just a supreme instrument. And the neck is pretty thin and flat.
Yeah, like your Ibanez a little bit.
Yeah, but not not as thin as like not as thin as an RG, like an Ibanez RG, but actually a little bit more round. So it's closer to the Gem.
Nice. Okay,
the Divide, what I mean? But it's, holy smokes, I mean, it just feels so comfortable in my hands. Like, like everybody, I'm a guitar nut, and you sit and you dream about playing it. Oh, like, maybe I do need another Strat, or even though, or you start thinking, but I go since I've gotten these guitars, I go to music stores and try stuff out, and they just don't feel good to me, because this really, like, feels like, wow, this is a guitar that I want to play, and it's really suited to me. And like I said, Pat really knocked it out of the park, and Scott Marceau, who's the artist rep, and Matt Ferguson, like the whole team there, and Dave Miner, who's actually from, they all chipped in on on making this happen. And I'm so thankful, because I'm not even saying this, like, to me, like I've never been happier with an instrument.
Yeah, well, that's funny you said that.
Yeah,
because Matt was on the show about 2 weeks back, and we were talking quite a bit at NAMM, and we were talking after NAMM, setting up for the show here, the one that we're doing with him. And, I told him, Matt said to me, he says, I really hope Jeff likes them. And I said, oh, Jeff and I have talked actually at length about them, just like trading emails back and forth. And I said, you don't have to worry about him liking them. He loves those guitars, those notes you were sharing with me.
Yeah. And so just the last cute thing, like I said, the schematics are the appointments, so it's got a Floyd, original Floyd, but it's, they got like kind of some, I think it's like maybe a stainless steel block or something like that. It's kind of a heftier block, these kind of nicer screws that go in
stainless string locks. Yeah.
Yeah. And up here too as well. And,
nice.
Yeah. So that's good. And then, the pickups in this one is a Seymour Duncan Custom Shop Hunter. The George Lynch.
Oh, nice.
Because I was really thinking, I'm like, really, that underlocking key sound is really one of my favorites of that. And I really like kind of where the note sits, when he solos on that record. And so apparently this pickup is supposed to kind of mimic what was going on. I don't know if it was because of what, like, hard to remember what they were really like, you do some research on it. They didn't really know what pickup is, maybe a Duncan distortion, whatever that he was using, but basically it's kind of, I don't think it's an replica, but it's meant to kind of harken to that era, and it is great. And it's, you know, a ceramic pickup, which I don't really gravitate towards ceramic pickups,
Right.
but you know, it works really well, and it's pretty hot. You know, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at what it reads at, but it doesn't feel overly distorted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's pretty dynamic when you roll the volume down. You know, things will clean up and not get spiky or mid-rangey in a way. So it's a great pickup. And then this is a Duncan SSL 5 in the middle.
Okay.
And then this is the Sustainiac here in the neck. And originally the one, and as it was at the NAMM show, it had the double coil.
Oh, okay.
Which is just a dummy
Gotcha.
thing, just made to fit in for people who have guitars with. And I see a lot of guys, you know, like Steve Vai has been now using the Sustainiac because he uses the Fernandez Sustainer.
Right.
You know, but he, you know, is now switching. You know, I've seen his new Pia guitars, you know, having the Sustainiacs, and he always has the double coil as well. But I found because to really get it to work, like, you have to have it closer to the strings than you would a normal neck pickup, and so I was hitting that dummy coil a lot. And since it's hollow, it made a really loud sound. And so then I kind of asked Pat, I said, is there any sonic difference between the single one and he said, no, that thing is a dummy. It's not even a dummy coil. It's just a piece of plastic just so it fits in it. And I said, well, then can we get rid of it?
Nice.
And so now, since we got into this single coil sized one, it's great. It doesn't get in my way at all.
That's perfect. Did you have anything to do with the pick guard? Did you? Because I like that pick guard. Was that your design or was that Yamaha's?
There was two things he said that I can't.
You can't choose from. You can't change.
Can't change the pick guard design because that's something that they're going to do.
Okay.
I guess, you know what I mean. So they didn't want something that was, I think, more, you know, Strat-like that would go here. You know what I mean. So that and the contours.
Okay.
He's like, they have to be like approved, you know, because there's certain things that they're testing and want to, you know, they want to have out there. I don't know. You know, but so there's a few things like that. But I actually love the pickguard. I think it looks great.
Me too. It really sets it off, especially on that guitar. I mean, we're going to see the white one in a few minutes, but that for sure. And here's a story. I don't have the facts 100% correct on this, so hopefully someone that has more knowledge than me can correct it. But I've been telling this story, and I got to get the facts straight one of these days. But when you mentioned the comparison to the Gem, way back, and Pat would know more about this than I do for sure. But back in the day, when that Yamaha that I have, the one that you like, the Pacifica, that's back when the builder was a Rich Lasner. If I'm pronouncing his name right, does that name sound familiar to you?
Oh, no. I know exactly.
Okay, so I'm on the right track. Okay, good.
And he is the same person.
Yeah, and wow. So he had left at one time to go to Ibanez, and
I think he was at Ibanez
and went to Yamaha. Oh, right, that's right, because it was going to be the successor to the Gem, or the next thing.
Or he went to, I think, because I think he was the one who did the Gem or something.
Yeah. And so that Pacifica had like a lot of Gem DNA in it, right?
Yes.
I think
because he was integral as far as co-designing that.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah. I've got to get the full facts.
But what I had heard, you know, from various, and it would make sense if you go back to that time when Vai joined David Lee Roth's band, and he obviously got all these offers to endorse guitars. That if you remember, Billy Sheehan, who was in the band, was already a Yamaha user.
And it works that way sometimes.
And so I think that Yamaha apparently was one of the contenders at the time to make, you know, ultimately he went with Ibanez, and obviously that's been an amazing relationship for them. And they've, you know, even the Pia at NAMM, this Vai's new guitar is beautiful too. You know what I mean? You know, but no, so I think that so a lot of these things that are in these guitars were ideas that really emerged from Vai, you know, that because he was building his own guitars, those performance guitars. Mm-hmm. If you see, like, and he even played those on the Eat 'em and Smile tour, because the Gem didn't really come out until Skyscraper.
Yeah, almost towards the end of David Lee Roth.
Yeah, Eat 'em and Smile was still, he was playing the Green Meanie, the Charvel. Mm-hmm. and those performance guitars live. And I think so a lot of those ideas that eventually seeped into the Gem, but then even the Pacificas, because I think those were ideas that he had presented to builders like, hey, can you build me these guitars? And yeah, that's where I think like someone like him is a true genius, in that these, you know, kind of the way that my playing is evolved and things that I'm into currently, you see all the decisions, all the, you know, that he made back then were really, really amazing innovations with the guitar. And
well, hats off to Pat and the innovation today. I mean, he's cranking out some amazing quality guitars.
Unbelievable, like unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
For sure. You have a white one sitting there as well too. You want to have a look at that one?
So let's switch it.
And then we'll have you do some playing as well too. We'll have a look, listen to some of these presets.
Just what, you know, because we have a rehearsal later today, so about 1:35, 1:40 has got to be our go time.
No problem. Yeah, just give me a bit of a reminder.
Yeah, I got to be done. Yeah, so this is the other one, and this one does not have the same body shape, same wood, except the neck fretboard is Pal Faro.
Okay.
And I had actually a long discussion. I don't know how we discussed a few different things at the time. And I had this discussion again. Pat's probably getting tired of me having this discussion with him about Pal Faro, because Pal Faro, you know, no one was using it until the Sidees.
That's right. They had to have an alternative.
And so then people started using this, but he claims he likes this better than Rosewood.
Okay.
And I have to say, like, as far as this guitar goes, it sounds phenomenal. Like I mean, it's just fantastic. Like it's such a, and I think why I like is because it is kind of between. I think he said something like it's between ebony and rosewood, a lot less porous, so it feels smoother, sleeker, and has a really nice, slightly brighter sound.
Okay.
Which I like that kind of clarity and articulation. It's not. I don't say like it's brighter in terms of tinny, shrill. It's just. I would say it's maybe more of the attack.
Okay,
of the
gotcha.
string, like what you initially hear, and for me, like I really like that because especially in a band like Smashing Pumpkins, where like I said, 3 guitar players, that type of clarity and quickness of it is important. And when you're playing, like, because things that are kind of muddy and dull may sound great if you're the only guitar player, but clarity is key when you're playing with more than one guitar player. So I really like that. And I'd say the red guitar or the orange guitar, but this one too is like the consistency of the necks, from here to here is really, really high. And I don't know if the Pal Faro seems to, it's just a really consistent all over the neck in terms of volume, feel, articulation. I have to say, I think that this guitar is my favorite guitar I've ever played. I mean, it sounds phenomenal. The other one sounds great too, but the Sustainiac comes with, I talked to Pat a lot about the Sustainiac is a circuit, even that when it's not on,
there's something there.
It's going through it's a circuit board, and so it kind of loads the guitar a little bit. And I think for lead stuff it's less pronounced, but when you play rhythm you hear a little bit of that of the, it just, something takes a little bit away of that attack that I really like. And I noticed, because I was wondering, I see Vi uses it all the time, is using the Sustainiac, Satriani has it. I said, but they don't really play rhythm guitar.
No, that's right.
Why?
Good point.
It's just for lead. And I go, that's why they, but I bet if you're in the studio and you're recording a rhythm guitar part, they would use a guitar that did not. I don't know. I mean, it's just
there's some merit to that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of my experience of using it. But so, if you're talking pound for pound, tone wise, this thing is amazing, and it's all the same,
Hmm.
except it's got nickel hardware everywhere, Pal Ferro neck, and then this pickup is the same, the Hunter SSL5, but this is actually another Duncan Custom Shop Hunter that they wound to complement a neck complement to the
Okay,
bridge.
slightly different output.
Yeah, and and here again, this pickup, because it's a humbucker, and a lot of people with the 24 frets, you lose a lot of real estate in here,
Hmm.
and it doesn't bother me though, because the neck pickup is set far enough down in the guitar to get the balance that I'm not hitting it.
That's not in the way at all.
And I pick, kind of in here, so I'm not hitting it too much. And so it doesn't bother me. But with the Sustainiac, you got to have it pretty close to the string.
Yeah.
And so that's why that became problematic. But other than that, yeah, this is a
a work
great
of
sounding
art.
guitar. Love it.
There's a question from Taylor, and this is probably something we can't address, but we'll just ask the question. He's asking when will those guitars go on the market. I would say at this point, probably there's no immediate plans. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't,
Who knows? Who knows?
No. I think that the reaction that they had at NAMM, like I'm not as, I'm not, there's a lot, I think people forget, especially the bigger guitar companies, they're these massive global corporations, and it's not as easy as like a boutique builder who's like, hey, you know what, I want to come out with this guitar, we can make a few hundred of them. And for a company like Yamaha, it's a big, what I've learned over time, is a big process for them to put a guitar into production.
Sure.
I think that the general, I think there was a little bit of happy surprise that how much positive reaction the guitar has gotten kind of within the community and at the NAMM show, that I know that some of the folks at Music Zoo were like, man, we'd love to be able to sell a guitar like that, from you guys. Like, we think that's, so I think that, people are, it was maybe shocking to them that people were into it. But, because I think that, Yamaha isn't always one of the first brand. Well, if you're talking Jackson, Charvel, Ibanez, this stuff is what they do all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that people realize that Yamaha was, they made some really cool guitars in the 80s, 90s. Besides the Pacificas, the RGs, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And they had like the blue Saraceno model.
Mm-hmm.
Which people, and the guys like Ty Tabor from King's X had like I think it was a RGX, right, or something like that, right. Which were these kind of, so I think there was a lot of good things that they were doing as well, and so like I said, like I'm happy just to, help kind of work on these, and I think we're I think because of my touring schedule this year into next year, we're talking about maybe doing a couple more. So I think that, that'll be basically the same. But, I talked to Pat about maybe just trying alder bodies.
Oh, nice.
Just something that's a little more, maybe a little more articulate. But not that these aren't, but it's just, it's like I said, it's just more of like just a
what if kind of thing.
Just to see, because the alder maple is kind of the super strat, like, starting place, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The alder body, maple neck with whatever type of fretboard, but I think, and kind of keep on kind of experimenting with the interesting color palettes, so because we have, with Pumpkins, we're doing some big festivals, and then we're doing those stadium shows with Guns N' Roses.
That's gonna be phenomenal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. So, and then, Pumpkins, we have some pretty big touring plans for 2021. So, I think to continue, it's like, I'm not saying that they're ever going to produce this guitar, but I think that they're open to exploring, like, let's see if, see where it goes.
I have a feeling after this Smashing Pumpkins tour, the the guys and girls in the corporate, Yamaha, the board of directors will be sitting down for their meetings. They're gonna have their agendas for the day, and they're saying, "Why are we getting calls for glow in the dark and Floyd Rose on our Pacificas?"
I know, right? I mean, no one would have thought, but it's like, I think that, it's more to do with the way that guitar culture in general is going, in that. And I'm just, who am I? I say this with all, with all humility, as if I have no idea. It's just kind of like my own personal impressions of like the way that I personally interact with guitar and guitar culture. And, what's great about it is everybody has opinions and everybody has, the forums to express them. But I think they kind of, let's say, like, maybe in some people's minds, this is like a retro guitar. And it is to a certain degree, but then not, because the kind of innovations that are in like the neck joints, the kind of the construction of the truss rods, even these are updated Floyds, everything, these are like kind of the best. It has it is, maybe a throwback to the late 80s, early 90s, but it also has very new type of technology into it. And just the kind of the precision of using the CNC machines and stuff that they're able to make. And
I look at it as an homage to what worked back in the day in the Shred Central, an homage to that. But like you say, with today's technology and a few refinements that have presented themselves now. Yeah,
and and I forgot to mention that both guitars have stainless steel frets. Which requires you to change strings maybe a little bit more, because it tends to kill strings a little bit faster.
But you're doing that anyways.
I to me, the way it feels it's amazing. I mean, it's such a great thing. And Pat does such great fret rounding work. You know what I mean? And the kind of he rolls the edges of the fretboard that it just
feels like you've had it forever.
It's like driving a luxury car.
Yeah,
I had to say it's really nice. And but the point I was going to try to make is I think there'll always be a place for people who are vintage guitar aficionados, and I mean like vintage, like 60s, 70s, 50s types of Gibson, Fender, that kind of thing. But I think that there's also, there's for players who are developing a way that don't want to play in that style, that those instruments just don't have the modern refinements that, to play like modern guitar. And then if you think about what's going on very left of center, the like stuff that Tosin Abasi does with like these kind of what do they call extended range guitar, and 8-10 string guitars with fan frets. You realize like there's a whole group of young players that are growing up playing those kind of guitars to where a Les Paul just is like it's almost like playing a different instrument. It's like me picking up the classical guitar. You're like, wow, I can't even play this thing. And and I kind of fall somewhere in the middle where I have a few vintage guitars that I bought for recording, and I do use them from time to time. You know what I mean? But not much, even, and this is kind of a good transition point. These guitars did not make it onto the new Pumpkins because I had just gotten them, and I basically kept them out here in Los Angeles because I knew they had to end up be out here for Night Dreamer stuff. But on the new Pumpkins, I did use, as he's on the last two Pumpkin stores, I've been using, James and I both been using kind of these other prototypes of Yamaha guitars of which we can't name or anything. We can't really talk, but I think people know that they are Yamaha prototypes because there were some articles that came out. Like, hey, what are these guitars that are, but I use, but again, those guitars, even though they look like kind of classic, they're, the one that I ended up using quite a lot on the new Pumpkins. It was kind of like a blood red with the black pickguard and Yngwie Malmsteen pickups, roasted maple neck, stainless steel frets. Has a similar type of heel neck
Yeah.
joint. Yeah, and I mean, fantastic sounding guitar. I mean, that's where you really, you really get to see how good a guitarist is how well it records.
Yeah, for sure.
And
For sure.
and with Night Dreamer and Pumpkins, especially because but Night Dreamer especially because I'm the only guitar player, and we play on in-ears.
Mhm.
You can really hear how your guitar sits in the mix, and when I got these guitars, I was shocked at how much clearer my guitar sounded.
Nice.
So that's just, again, which is a testament to that's when when you have a really good guitar. It's not, a lot of it's how it plays, how it makes you feel, how you feel playing it, but also, most importantly, how is it sitting within the sound of the ensemble you're playing. And I mean, that's where I know I'm like, okay, these are fantastic instruments.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, listen, we're at the 66-minute mark. I want to really respect your time here today. But we'll turn it over for a second here. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the presets that you've given us today.
I'm going to switch back to the other guitar.
Sure,
because, that's the one I use mainly in that.
No problem. And Sandra Lee's already posted the link for people to grab those. So grab those and bring them into your Helix.
Yeah. So I decided to kind of, let me give the short version of it to kind of go, about why I chose these presets is, most of the time when people enter the world of guitar modeling, they talk about how well does it emulate my Plexi, how well does it emulate the Fender amp I use, or all these different things. It's about how does it emulate something that exists out there in the real world. And that is very useful because, I mean, that's useful information to me as well. And I think that we know that we could spend the next 5 years talking about if modeling feels that, or fulfills that gap, or if it can, or if it never will, or, we can go on endlessly about it. I think there's specific answers for those types of questions that, most people don't answer the question. They don't even approach the question in the correct way.
Right.
Because the comparisons they're making aren't the right comparison, but also what's great to me about new digital technology is that you can also use it as a very creative tool to come up with things that you wouldn't really do in a traditional amp pedal rack setup. The fact that you can kind of, with signal chains, with constructing sounds, or putting things together that would be difficult to put together or would cost enormous amounts of money to put together, so I kind of like to use it in that way too. And so the presets I chose today are more on the experimental end. And so I felt like if people feel like, oh, I want something, like I'm looking for something different to kind of to pique my interest and kind of make me explore in a way certain things, I think they could use these as just a starting place to play around with ideas. You know what I mean? They're very, I think the best presets, no, I don't want to say that. But these presets are very specific to the band that that I play in besides Pumpkins Night Dreamer. And so they are very much like geared towards that. I don't know the translation point into using them for something else. So I think they're more inspirational than anything else. And so actually so there's actually 4 presets altogether because each song has sometimes I'll try to pack everything in one preset and I do use scenes a lot, but sometimes because of the signal routing, it forces me to go to another preset.
Gotcha.
From time to time. Even though I like to do that, I try not to do that as much nowadays. I try to pack it all in because obviously with doing scene changes, it's great because you get all the delay trails, the reverb trails, and there's no latency and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but so the first one I want to talk about is a song called "Higher Than the Sky," and it has to me a pretty interesting sound. Is that I tried to think like sometimes you write like a song like that. The preset I shared last time was for
To Sheila.
No,
Oh
but
no,
didn't
no! It was for the for your single from Night Dreamer, and it was a stomp one.
Yeah, for what's it called? Another Life.
Another Life.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Another Life. Yeah, and that I wrote that riff on an acoustic guitar and then used effects to make it. I'm like, okay, this is an interesting idea, but it needs to sound more interesting. So then I went looking for effects that could make it a little more interesting. Where this was the opposite, where I used a sound to compose.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of an interesting tool to use. And so, this sound uses a fourth harmony. It's a smart harmonization, so it's in the key of A minor, C major, but it's basically there's a fourth above each note. And so, so you can, so like the main riff, it goes. And so.
Can you tilt your camera down a little tiny bit?
What's that?
Can you tilt your camera down just a little tiny bit too?
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me see if I can. Oh, yeah, that's right. Let me see if I get. Yeah. So.
Perfect.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So it's just this kind of interesting thing that creates this kind of other sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when you play like even very simple things like like the verse is just kind of this palm muted. You kind of get more like a cello orchestral type of thing. So if you're one guitar player, you're actually getting a lot more energy than if you're just playing. But what's cool about it is because it's not really polyphonic,
right?
But when you play certain chords, it gets a really interesting sound. So like the chorus has. Interesting sound, and so it's like it doesn't it's very inspiring to me because it makes me react and play things that I wouldn't normally play.
Certainly.
And even like certain chord voicing that I use because it doesn't track correctly, so you have to get it to like certain intervals make the harmonizer go, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I can't process that, but I kind of like those glitches because if you find them in ways that are repeatable, they become very musical in a way that you can use it to do that. So
gotcha.
So that's kind of like the one time, but then for the solo on this song, I didn't cut it with the sustainer. I just used a regular, but I actually turned the sustainer on to just where it plays the same note. But for Nitro, I actually wanted to get some away from some like some traditional guitar sounds, so I started using a lot of kind of direct sounds. So this is actually the Higher Than the Sky solo has. Let me see. It's got the industrial fuzz and the Tima is kind of like the distortion sound,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think let me see. And then I used it has a chorus and then a delay in it, and so it's a pretty interesting sound. I'll kind of see. Hopefully, I won't blow you up over it. It's like more like a synth like, and I think, someone like Matt Bellamy from Muse does very similar. Yeah, I think he actually has a fuzz factory built into his guitar.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, to do and I know because his tech was my tech, and I know he runs it DI as well like that. So I feel like it's a pretty interesting pretty fun sound. And let me see, actually that was, and I think for the end I have like an end solo where it has just yeah. So there's a few different snapshots, you know, on there that have just basically just different kind of delay mixes and level adjustments. So because what's great about having Helix is that I don't have to, because we're running on, you know, we have a lot of backing tracks and stuff. I don't have to worry about the sound man knowing when, because, you know, because we don't have the luxury of having our own sound engineer, and so they don't know when the solos are coming or when things like the solo needs to go up, then it needs to sink back down while the sing, you know what I mean? So what's great is I get to mix myself.
That's perfect.
And so so there's that's the higher than the sky stuff. I think that would be really fun. And then the other one I wanted to do is for a song called The Taste, which was our second video. And again, it's the same basic sound, but I think the lead sound that I use on there is pretty fun. It has like a reverse and a ping pong delay.
Okay.
And it really so that's it. Yeah, snapshot too. Sounded weird, like out of context. You're like, what am I doing?
It's all good.
Yeah, so there's that one, and then you know at the end, there's a solo at the end too, and it gets similar sound, but I use the octave up on the. Stuff. So,
love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think once the if you download the presets and you could hear them in stereo, it's more fun.
Oh yeah,
I think because everyone's hearing it in mono here. But what's cool about all that stuff is, is again like there's everything that all these presets. I don't use any third-party IRs. I just do everything.
Stock
everything
cabs.
that I'm sharing is yeah.
Nice.
I try. I do have a bunch of IRs and stuff, but I don't really use them too much.
Yeah.
I like. I mean, yeah.
I made that mention as well too. I mean, you can bring the Helix home from the store and be completely satisfied with everything you get in the box.
I am. Yeah. And so then there's actually another. This song. Too, there's the second verse has this really cool thing where I play. Let me see. And then, so that's an interesting sound that has. And that actually uses the. Let me see, the US double, so the twin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a twin model. What else is in there? The Minotaur, compressor, pitch shifting, delay, reverb. So that has a few more things,
right?
But I think people can kind of see. A lot of times I don't do anything too wild and too crazy with. I'm actually getting more into, more complex signal routing type of stuff, and I've been watching some of Jason's. Videos to get some pointers, on routing type of stuff. But even with simple stuff, you can go, there's a lot of interesting things you can do without having to do things that are too mind numbing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And I think if people kind of look at, someone gave me early on, a little tip of, programming the Helix where I always have there's the top line and I send it down to the second line. And I usually put my mono effects and amps up on the top line, then anything stereo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of like I put down there, and it's just kind of like a good starting point. And then If anybody, I would say if they're not used to using something like this, that it just takes a little bit of time.
Yep.
But start simple.
Exactly.
Just get a good sound with just, you
Amp
don't
and a
have
cab.
to do, yeah. And I can see like someone like Jason uses a lot of like post EQs.
Mm-hmm.
What he calls kind of like his mastering.
Yeah, mastering suite at the end.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And I want to, maybe start, but it's not necessary.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I use a lot of sound, and and I think like we were talking about kind of off camera, and I think as we can talk about that, I used quite a bit of Helix. Helix made it onto some of the new Pumpkins record.
Nice.
Helix,
yeah.
in fact, a lot of Helix native.
Nice.
Because I'd often be in Billy would be in one room, recording. I'd be in another room recording. We'd have two computers, and then I'd go in and we'd import my files, and so the plugin would be on there.
Yep.
And I not every time, but few times, more than a few times, we were like, wow, that sounds great. Let's just
keep it.
We don't need to go and redo it or do it with a real amp. So and that was again, and and most of the time on that Pumpkin, it was like very simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple. Nothing. Not using it for super crazy routing or anything like that. So I mean, I would say like what's great about it is like even for getting really basic user friendly sounds, it doesn't take a lot. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Like anything, yes, the more time you spend with it, the more you're going to get out of it. But it's not too bad. The learning curve isn't too bad.
You're probably like me. I mean, I know you're like me when it comes down to the fact that we wonder how we could have lived without it, right?
I am very, very, very unmotivated to plug in a real amp.
Yeah, I know, right? You got to lug it around, and oh man.
It's just what's great about it, and now I'm starting to use power cabs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you told me about that yesterday.
And so that is another interesting link to the chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like you were telling me, I think yesterday we were talking how you used to have a full stack for your distorted sound, and then you had like a combo for your clean sound.
And A/B back and forth, yeah.
And you have to A/B back and forth, and and obviously that stuff sounds amazing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But the fact that you can carry something like Helix and a 212 power cab and essentially get a pretty darn good, that's like 1/8 the amount of gear.
I know. Close enough that your back thanks you when you get home.
You know what I mean? And, it really is like just being able to have like going like, wow, I really want a JC120 for my clean sound.
Yep. Which I use a lot in Helix. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. A chorus delay kind of clean sound, and then being able to go to a Friedman or a Marshall or for my distorted sound.
Yeah.
And instead of having like, even if you were able to go out and buy like a really great $4,000 head,
mm-hmm.
right, that has 3 or 4 channels and get sounds, but it's still, you may go like, oh, I wish I could have like a combo for cleans. You know what I mean? Not all of, not everybody's willing to carry around like Eric Johnson, like 2 Fender amps, the middle, the mid-level, the mid distortion rhythm Marshall, and then like the full lead Marshall. It's a lot of amps to carry around.
Agreed. I think really the only limitation, this is something we could give advice to people considering getting a Helix. The only thing limiting you is your imagination. Where do you want to go with it? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Sure. So
listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. You got a rehearsal here, and I think we've gone over the time that you were allocating anyway. So I want to see you get off to rehearsal and get.
Oh no, it's all good. All good. I mean, we're fine. So,
okay.
But thank you.
No problem. No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back again. There's a few things we didn't touch base on, but that just lets us have you back another time.
Sure.
We'll look forward to seeing you. Junior and I, maybe even Sandra too, will come down and see you at Rogers Center in July, I think it is. We're playing there with the Pumpkins. Obviously, Guns N' Roses is going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that one. I'm not sure is Guns N' Roses on that bill. I forget. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're playing. I don't know where it's the base. We're probably with the baseball stadium, right?
The Roger. Yeah, you're at Rogers.
It sounds ridiculous. The baseball stadium. Yeah. They're normal, but I know it's like it's kind of like I got to pinch my skin a little bit, like playing like some baseball stadiums with the Guns N' Roses.
That's pretty cool.
Like,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I never would have thought, like even all of us, I mean, even Billy, and he's like we all pretty giddy about it. Like,
I'll bet.
I mean, to be able to do that, because I think the last time the Pumpkins opened up for Guns N' Roses was like 1991.
Yeah,
When
right.
Pumpkins were on their very first album.
Yeah.
He's doing the Use Your Illusions, and so he said no one knew at the time who the Pumpkins were.
Yeah.
And so people were like booing. It was like in Indiana.
Sure.
People were like booing them and like get off the stage. It's like, so hopefully it'll go better this time.
Well, I was talking to Katie the other day too, and she was really excited. She tweeted out the other day when she finally had the word from management and whatever that everything was going down. She was pretty excited, and I was saying, because I asked her, I said, "Are you doing the?" First of all, I asked her if she was doing the tour, and wasn't 100% sure yet. And then when she found out, that it's with Guns N' Roses as well too. She was pretty excited. So I said, very happy for you guys.
It's that's like once in a lifetime kind of stuff.
For sure. Well, you deserve it, man. You've really worked hard for it, and you continue.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear the new record. And I mean, you and I chat a lot anyway, so we'll be chatting long before the concert. But good luck with everything with Night Dreamer.
So let's we can at least plan for we'll do something this summer when we're in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You have to come early to the gig, and
I
we
will.
can do. We'll go and see if we can sneak into Slash's dressing room.
There you go. That sounds like fun. I think I could talk Sandra and Eric into that for sure.
We'll try to be like, we'll make them play through a Helix.
Yeah, exactly. Slash, we're going to convert you to a Helix. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would happen, but it'd be pretty cool to see him at least try. I bet you he'd plug in. I'm sure he's tried one. If he hasn't, we'll tell him about it. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for a fantastic afternoon. Yeah. And
Great,
I'll say goodbye to you off the air. But everyone, thank you for joining us here. And I want to cordially invite you to stop back again next week. Same time, same channel, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific. Bill Kelleher from Mastodon is on the show. And
on the way.
Yeah,
awesome.
He's coming on, and he's a new, I shouldn't say new, but relatively new Helix user. He's been doing a ton of ESP clinics around the world, and the Helix just happened to, fall into place, and he's now hooked. So we'll be talking to him next week. So everyone, thank you so very, very much. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out some of our links, and go download those presets right now and put them on your Helix and have some fun with some Night Dreamer Helix presets from Jeff. And thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing, for those who care, so the last thing is we're going to do, they've asked me to set up a marketplace account.
Great.
So I can share presets like you do with people. And so I'm going to go through and, because I have to, edit them a bit so they'll work on Helix alone, but I'm going to start, hopefully with my shiny, so bright presets.
Nice.
And be able to just offer those to people at a, I don't know. I don't care if they read at a reasonable price. I don't know. It's the money. It's just, having a place to share them.
Exactly.
And, what I mean? So, but I think as every tour goes on, I'll be able to basically share what I'm doing with people. So,
they're gonna love it.
Because being part of the community is really important to me. So, so eventually everything will hopefully be available in one form or another.
Well, if you have any troubles with, I'm not sure if you have your credentials and everything yet, but if you do or you don't, whenever you get them, if you have any trouble in the back end, I can help you walk you through some of the things you have to, put up your assets and graphics and all that kind of stuff. Be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, they sent me the thing. I'm like, oh boy, okay.
It's not as scary as what it looks like. It's not really, but you'll want to make your video ahead of time to show it, and then keep them unlisted and all that good stuff. I'll be happy to help you with that.
Okay, we'll do. Yeah, we'll touch base on that.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys and girls, thank you so very much.
Bye, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
All right, until next time. Cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Thank you for watching the Helix Hour. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. An extra special thank you to the staff at Line 6 for their continued support. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so right now and feel free to share our content with your friends. See you next time on the Helix Hour.